Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to this edition of World Sports Daily. I'm Jim Williams, and my partner in crime, the prodigal Sean himself, Sean Miller. Sean, we've been counting down the World Cup, but we figured on a Thursday when there's some NFL football to be played and some good college that maybe we would just take a breath for a moment and look at what's going on tonight. So, you want to start with college or you want to start with the pro game first?
Yeah, I think maybe we start with the college game and just real quickly. I don't know if you watched Gonzaga get blown out last night. So
Yeah.
college sports is everybody's kind of there's so much other stuff going on, but college basketball and college football and stuff. So there's a lot of the college action. It's been interesting.
I'll tell you what I'd like to talk about tomorrow, not today, but tomorrow. You've got, and the Pac-12 has taken it on the chin quite a bit.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, I'm sorry, Saturday, getting ahead of myself. On Saturday, you've got Oregon, Utah, and USC, UCLA. And so the battle for, who ends up in that championship game in Vegas for the Pac-12 is amazing. And I don't know if anybody's been watching, but I enjoy. I've actually done a couple USC, UCLA games in the past. And, USC's real rival is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But that being said, you can't not live across town from a team and not have a rivalry. So, and from what I understand, which is pretty amazing, the game, which is being played in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, is sold out.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing. And for those of you who've never been to the Rose Bowl, Sean, you and I were talking about earlier in the week about baseball stadiums and stadiums that are in neighborhoods.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to Pasadena and the Rose Bowl, it's in a neighborhood. It's not like it's slapped down, out away from nowhere. I mean, literally, where the Rose Parade, which is on Colorado Boulevard, basically, it's 2 miles. It's a 2-mile jaunt you can walk it from the Rose Parade to the Rose Bowl. And so SC and UCLA in that one, I mean, we got nothing but good quarterbacks. The thing and we'll talk about this one tomorrow, the thing for Oregon, which is a problem, is Bo Nix, who's been, off the chart for them, got hurt in the game last week and against Washington. And it doesn't look like he's going to play.
Wow.
And that really does put Oregon in a very vulnerable position. So anyway, but more about that tomorrow as we get to what will be 2 games back-to-back on Fox. The first one will be SC and UCLA. The second one will be the aforementioned Oregon game against Utah. So tonight, an American Athletic Conference game, and it's Tulane, who's having a heck of a year, hosting SMU. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, Tulane got lost and lost a little momentum, but this is still an 8-2 and game team against a 6-4 team. SMU obviously having a pretty good year as well. SMU is played one of the probably the under the radar NCAA football games of the year 2 weeks ago. They beat Houston 77-63. That's not a basketball score. That's a football score. Tanner Mordecai threw for 9 touchdown passes in the game. It's going to be interesting. I mean, that's, 9 touchdowns. You look at the,
what was their craving with
379 yards and 9 touchdowns when the Houston quarterback threw for 527 and 7 touchdowns. That's pretty interesting. So Tulane doesn't give up a lot of points. That's the thing. They come in, they've only allowed about 19 points per game here. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, and SMU's won 3 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
It's they're 7th in the They're 7th in the FBS in passing. They average 325 yards a game in the air. So it's pretty amazing what they've got going on there. Obviously, I've opened a browser that has all kinds of audio. Yeah, no, if Panera wants to send us a sandwich, that's okay.
I'm actually, I had to fast for my blood test, so I'm actually kind of hungry. So yeah, if Panera wants to send us something, please.
Yeah, send it, or your pizza place that can deliver. So yeah, it's both teams can put points on the board, but as you said, SMU's defense is really one of the interesting things. There's a sidebar here, and that is the Pac-12 is in negotiations for their TV deal, and there's been some conversation that they may go east to add teams. And the thought could be that they would drop down and grab San Diego State, hit SMU, Tulane, and perhaps go down into Florida, to South Florida, to my alma mater, who didn't have a football team when I was there.
Wow.
But that's a thought that they may go coast to coast. But that's that's something that you're hearing here first.
Wow.
My sources tell me that George Kliavkoff has been speaking to Amazon, and he's presented a package to Amazon and ESPN that would pay each Pac-12 team a little more than what the Big 12 deal was that they did with Fox and ESPN, which is about 32, 33 million per team per year. So we'll see how that works out. But SMU is in the midst of, the crosshairs are there.
Yeah, I would be interested. It'd be interesting to see if they could, the Mountain West, the AAC, and the Pac-12 combine into one 32-team super conference with 4 8-team divisions and stuff, because it seems like that's the way it's going.
It's funny you bring that up. Michael Resco, who is the commissioner of the AAC, I had a conversation with Mike, and I presented the exact thing to you. At that point, I didn't present because the Pac had not lost at UCLA or USC. But this is back when the Big 12 had just lost Oklahoma and Texas. And so I had an opportunity to speak to Mike. And my suggestion is, why don't you guys in the Mountain West merge? And you got 4 time zones. Actually, you have 5 because you get Hawaii, right? You get all the time zones. You have got quality schools. Now, one of the things I talked about, because he said, well, look, we got this many schools, they got that many schools. That's an untenable amount of schools to necessarily play, right? And I said, well, and I used this, I said, you could do like the premiership and you could do relegation. So you could say, these are my elite teams, 20 teams. If you work your way up, you can be in the top echelon of that. Because East Carolina, you cannot get there from here. I mean, that is a trip that no matter what airport you go into, unless it's a private plane, you're not getting to East Carolina easily.
Yeah.
So anyway, clearly that was summarily dismissed, but I think that I think you're onto something. I think now, putting all of that together, and you're going to have a playoff situation that's going to expand anyway. Why not? I mean, and again, you said, and I agree with you, they could play games Monday through Friday.
That's right.
And those primetime games, the MAC will tell you the money that the MAC's making, it's not a lot, but it's substantial enough for them. But what they are doing is they're giving ESPN some good numbers. So
yeah, if you did 4, they do this in New Jersey with sports. They move up and down. If you did, 4 6-team divisions with 24 teams, and you say, listen, the you teams are going to play on Tuesday nights. You teams are going to play on Wednesday. You're going to play on Thursday. You're going to play on Friday, and then whatever that we'll have the marquee games on Saturday.
Right.
I mean, there's so many ideas that you can use promotion and relegation. That I think that are out there, and all of a sudden, if the AAC and the Mountain West combined, or Pac-12, whatever. Now, obviously, now you look at these other conferences like ACC. That's bigger than the ACC. That's bigger than the Big 12. That's big. I want to watch these games. I want to be a part of that because it's something new. And I know if I go out and I win that, I got a chance. I got a chance to be in the playoff.
Well, and you can alternate. Let's say, for the sake of argument, you could alternate playing a title game in San Diego. UNLV is, in the conference. You could play in Vegas. You could play in New Orleans because Tulane is there. So you could play at they don't call it the Superdome anymore. I think it's called the Caesars Dome. You can play at Tampa where they played the Super Bowl. So you can play championship games, or you could do like the Pac did a few years ago when you played a home game basically at the host team was the one who had the best record. I personally didn't think that was a very good idea. But, it is what it is. So yeah, I think that we could get they'd get a lot of eyeballs if they wanted it, because as I said, you have 5 time zones. You could start a game at noon, and oh, by the way, you could start a game in Hawaii at midnight Eastern time. You could go from 12 noon to 3 o'clock in the morning, doing nothing but playing AA. We could call it the Big American Conference.
Yeah, it's not just for football. Just think about it for basketball and Boise State, Wyoming, some of these teams. But for basketball here, when you got these East Coast games on Saturday nights, Saturdays, and same thing. You play in the morning and you play in the afternoon, you play in the evening, and people will shoot. If there's sports on TV at 11 o'clock at night on the East and whatever, it doesn't matter, on a Monday night, Tuesday night, people are tuning in. I mean, I just remember being in school and, there was always the ESPN had the Big West game on Monday nights at midnight. I mean, first of all, we always bet it because it was on at midnight. It was the only thing on.
Right.
I'm thinking, I'm like, man, there's nothing else on. Like, of course we're gonna go. Of course we're gonna go out. Hey, let's go out and watch the game and stuff like that. So of course we went out and watched it. So I always think that that's a big thing with people. If you have stuff on, it doesn't matter if it's a streaming service or whatever. If there's something to watch, someone is gonna watch it.
Right. And the other thing too is, as I said, with all the different time zones, you could get. I mean, you just spoke about basketball. Think about you've got San Diego State, which is a fantastic basketball team. You got Memphis. You've got quality basketball programs in that combination of those two. And rather than, taking the crumbs away from what else is going to happen. But I do think that the problem with the Pac is the Big Ten doesn't want all of their schools.
Yeah.
They don't want all of them. They don't even want 4 of them.
Sorry, Washington State. We don't, Pullman's not a big pull. Pullman's not a big pull for people in New York, but it is what it is.
It's going to be hard too for them to. I could see where they would go Stanford and Cal. I could see where that would make sense.
Good academic schools.
Yeah, academically they're on the same level. Stanford is always a team that plays Big Ten schools, and Cal. There were times when Cal was a pretty decent football team. It's been a long time, but there's been a time. But it fits in there. It also would appease the boards of regions, which are meeting today in Los Angeles to talk about whether or not UCLA can go, which is a joke because UCLA is going to go to the Big Ten. That's just they're not going to stop it. But Oregon and Washington, what do they add to the Big Ten? The Big Ten is not. I mean, yeah, they got the money, but they're not necessarily that excited. about that. They want to share. They want to share the money, but not with so many people. So if you took the 4 California schools, which is what my scenario I think is what they're going to do.
Went to LA and San Francisco market.
Yeah, right. You take that, and then you got you got Phil Knight's money, who's trying to wedge his way in. And look, University of Washington's a fine institution, but whether or not they can make it in there, again, there's just so many seats at the table. So it would follow suit that rolling the Pac and the Mountain and the AAC into each other would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that if you could find a 32 team conference and make it 4 8-team divisions, I think you got, because then you play whoever you want, and then you play your 7 division games, and then and then what you have, which is something that no one else has here. If you have 4 divisions, now you have a semifinal, 2 semifinal games, and the final. So on top of
an NFL, you've got an NFL layout.
That's right. So now and then the winner goes, hey, listen, if I get through a semifinal and a final, I'm going to a playoff. Right. So and then you're getting into playoffs. So I look at, if they want they want football to be 15 games, all this stuff. That's fine if they want to do it. Just make it so that just make this super conference. I may have to rate that on NJ.com and see if we can get that done.
No, I'll tell you what. We'll do our best. We'll get in front of people and start talking. So, for the moment, Tulane and SMU are in the American. Your thought? Who wins tonight's game?
I think Tulane probably wins just because their defense. The defense is a little bit better. Sometimes with these good teams, you get that loss, and then you kind of snaps you back to, hey, listen, we're not going to the playoff, but if we could finish 10-2 and win our thing and get to a good bowl game or something like that, that's a pretty good season, especially with all the other stuff that was going on around the school. So I think they come back and win tonight.
Yep. So all right, let's move on to the pros.
All right,
and. I don't think it's an overstatement to say the Packers have to win tonight.
Yes.
If they have any hopes of making the playoffs, because right now it looks like in the East, you've got Philly, you've got Dallas, and you've got the Giants all playing, good football. Those wild cards are going to come from probably there. I don't see the Packers, unless they go on a tear, being in that conversation.
And this is a weird game because Tennessee right now is 6-3. The Green Bay, I think, they're going to have to get hot, but both teams are so banged up. I just think Rodgers' comments, kind of throwing his team under the, but he hasn't been great either. But you look at the Packers' schedule here. They finally won. They had lost 5 games in a row. Both New York teams, Washington, Buffalo, Detroit. Not the greatest schedule in the world, but they got to play Tennessee. Then they got to play Philly, and Chicago bye week. The Rams, who've been awful, but Miami, Minnesota, Detroit. So. To make the playoffs in the NFC right now, I mean, there's, you look at these standings, the Eagles are 8-1, the Giants are 7-2, the Cowboys are 6-3, the Commanders are 5-5, the Vikings are 8-1, the Seahawks and the 49ers 6-4, 5-4. I don't know if the Seahawks can keep it up, but San Francisco probably can. So now. Tampa, somebody's going from that division. So Green Bay is going to have to, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 teams. Green Bay is going to have to catch somebody here to get in. Could they catch the Commanders? Yeah, they could. But with that schedule, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be 9-8. They could be at the 8-9, but they might not be that good.
tonight's game, just for the heck of it, I was checking the weather in Green Bay, and kickoff time temperature is going to be a balmy 22 degrees. There's going to be wind, 22 degrees, no snow, but definitely there's going to be a cold factor. That leads me to believe that the Titans are just going to run the ball down the Packers' throat.
Which they've been doing for the last 5 weeks anyway here with,
Mr. Henry.
4-1 their last 5, and their only losses in overtime to Kansas City. And I mean,
I have no shame in that.
Derrick Henry's been, he's been unbelievable. He's got 923 yards rushing right now, halfway through the season. So, see if he gets on pace. But he's been, last week he wasn't great against the Broncos. Obviously, Broncos defense is pretty good. But he had, 17 carries, 115 yards against Kansas City, 219 against Houston. So, yeah, I think he's going to get the ball a lot. And I don't know if Green Bay's going to be able to stop him like Denver did last week. So, I think it's going to be one of these games where he's going to get the ball a lot. And if he can break some runs and keep the clock going and they can put some on the board, I think they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, it's definitely – two things happen when they can do that, when they control the ball like that. They make the game a whole lot shorter.
Yes.
Which means you don't get as many possessions. And secondly, if you stack the box to stop him, Ryan Tannehill can still throw the ball. And he doesn't have to throw it far. So, the Titans are very good at keeping the chains moving. Let's take a quick preview of this game tonight, which will be on Prime Video for those of you who would like to watch it. So here we go.
Week 11, and we've got a good one. The Titans, the Packers, with both teams looking to build on recent momentum. The story of the Titans season has been one of survival. They fought through a boatload of injuries. Early on, they lost Harold Landry for the year. On defense, they lost Taylor Lewan for the year. On offense, and in recent weeks, they've had to go without Ryan Tannehill. Now Tannehill's back in the lineup, and they're working through an ankle injury to their Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Jeffrey Simmons. What's gotten them through is they've been able to hang their hat on their identity. That's their toughness, and this is a week to watch Derrick Henry in that run game. The Packers come in allowing almost 5 yards per carry, one of the shakiest run defenses in all the NFL. On the flip side, Green Bay comes in looking to continue to build on their investment in their young receivers. Christian Watson had 3 touchdowns last week against the Cowboys. We'll see if that proves to be a turning point for Aaron Rodgers and company.
Hey everybody, Fabs here, and the big fantasy storyline in Thursday night's game between the Packers and the Titans is, which Aaron Rodgers are we going to see? He had his best game of the season last week, scoring over 19 fantasy points against my beloved Dallas Cowboys, but before that game, he had averaged fewer than 14 points. Now, the matchup is good. The Titans have been very generous to quarterbacks. 5 QBs have beaten them for over 17 fantasy points this season. So if you're desperate at the position, I think Rodgers is certainly worth a look, but you may want to temper your expectations in what's been a very down year for the future Hall of Famer.
Jennifer Piacenti here with SI Betting. Let's grab a player prop at SI Sportsbook for Derrick Henry to go over 97.5 rushing yards. Henry's streak of 5 consecutive 100-plus yard games was snapped last week versus a tough Denver defense, but I'm betting he gets back on track versus a Green Bay defense that's allowing an average of 123 rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. Henry is averaging 103 yards on the ground per game this year, and he's the motor in the Titans offense. It's good to be the king.
Okay. Thanks to our friends from Sports Illustrated. There was something that they brought up in there that I don't think a lot of people think about. And, Aaron Rodgers got his young receivers, and that's true. It's hard to catch a football when it's 22 degrees.
Yes.
Your hands just do not want to do it. It stings to catch a football at that point. So, you tend to take, and you'll see it tonight, they're probably going to be wearing gloves. Mm-hmm. And again, the interesting part of gloves is, how the ball is, if you've ever held a football, most of you have, a professional type football, it's got ridges in it so you can grip it, right? When you have gloves on, your gloves are, have nothing, there's nothing there to catch it with. So when you slam your hands together to catch the ball with your hands, you're better off trying to catch it against your chest or something like that, because that ball is going to fly off those hands like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if we see two or three picks tonight because of those kind of situations where players, sometimes they get alligator arms so they don't push their arms out to catch the ball. Crazy things happen when it's very cold outside because, again, receivers, like anybody else, they don't want to lose skin off their hands. And so we'll see how that plays tonight. I thought it was interesting about Derrick Henry at 97 yards. I think that's a fair prop bet. I think I would take that. What do you think?
Yeah, Green Bay, like you said in the video, I mean, they can't stop the run. They struggle against the run. Yeah, I just think it's going to be heavy dose of Henry tonight. And you're going to see the different props here. See if we can get some game props. I would probably player rushing here. Henry over, you can get it up to over 104 as well. I like that. Rushing attempts over 21. I think that's probably going to be, pretty easy over. Over 17 and a half yards, longest run for Derrick Henry. But it's not just going to be him. You got Aaron Jones as well. Yeah. So, I just think they're going to be a lot of ball, live running the ball here tonight. And, sometimes in the wind and the cold, they just try to run the ball and see what they can get there. So I do like that. I think I like the Titans here. I don't have a lot of faith in this Green Bay team just because, they won that game last week. All right. But, they lost a lot of games before that. And I just think Derrick Henry is the difference.
Yeah. If they can keep him on the field and control the time of the clock, they're going to be hard to beat. And that's, because you figure if they've grinded out some pretty long drives. I mean, their average drive, we're talking about Tennessee right now, is 5.2 minutes. That chunks up a bunch of time.
That's right.
That limits your possessions, and so you can't go. If you go 3 and out 2 or 3 times, you're not going to get the ball that much. Now, on the upside, the under probably looks like something that we would all want. But do you see the under? What's the under on this?
Yeah, to be honest, to me it seems like it's a little high, 41.
41.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a little high, but
it's 20, 21, 20.
Yeah, this Green Bay, I mean, it was only 2017 when Tennessee played Kansas City in overtime a couple weeks ago. So, Green Bay's obviously not the Kansas City offense. So,
no.
I just think Tennessee's going to try to slow it down. The only kind of thing, you talked about some picks, all of a sudden, if there's 2 or 3 picks in this game, and interception return for a touchdown or change the field position, that 41 can quickly, get we could be at 30 points at halftime with a couple picks. So that could be a little dangerous.
The other thing to watch, especially in the cold, is the special teams. It's punters. When the punter's foot hits the ball, it's like kicking a brick.
Yeah.
And so they usually don't go as far. And then on the other side, on the flip side, sometimes being with cold weather, you tend to not catch the ball. You can muff punts. So, there's all kinds of freaky things that could make this, you could end up with a sloppy game that goes over simply because the two teams are inept at each other. You get a pick six going one way, you get a guy muff a punt the other way. I mean, there's nutty stuff. So, this one will be interesting. Let's just put it that way. There'll be plenty for Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit to talk about tonight.
That's right.
So, so they got something going for them. One of the interesting things, a couple interesting things, we'll downshift for a second to soccer, the World Cup. This is the first year where there will be at least 4 women doing the play-by-play of matches in the tournament. And one of them is with the BBC. And it's really going to be fascinating to find out how that works out from them. And just a little tip, and I'll be giving you this tip again. You can watch, I know streaming, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Streaming, there's 3 ways to do this, okay? If you don't subscribe to a streaming service or a cable service for that matter, you can go to Sling, and our buddies at Sling have worked out a deal with Fox, and all the games will be on there, and you can take a 1-week trial of it, and then for the month, you just pay them the $30 and you got the tournament. Or if you don't mind watching the game in Spanish, you can download the Peacock app. It's going to be on Telemundo. The Peacock app will allow you to watch the first 2 rounds of play for free, and then the key rounds, the semifinals and the finals, will be on their pay app. But their pay app is only $5. So if you wanted to, I'd take the 1-week trial, slap the $5 down, and watch all of the World Cup in Spanish with Andres Cantor and the gang calling games. As far as I'm concerned, I don't necessarily need the announcers, so it wouldn't bother me not to see it.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just put a game on mute and listen to music and just watch the game, or do if I'm writing or something like this, I'll watch the game. I have the game on in the background and whatever. I won't even be paying attention to stuff. And if I hear someone start yelling, I'll look up and see what's going on. But yeah, I don't really mind watching it in Spanish. So
yeah, and the thing is that I tend to, and this is funny, coming from a television background and talking to you yesterday about our buddy JP Dellacamera.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't need you to get me excited about something. I appreciate it, and as a producer and a director, I will tell my guys to temper the excitement till something actually happens to be worthy of excitement. My biggest pet peeve are these hockey announcers who go into some orgasmic, thing when a goal is scored. It's just like way over the top. I mean, come on, they just scored a goal. They didn't, cure cancer. Just calm down a bit. But you get that same sense of urgency and excitement when goals are scored. It's like they have to they have to out Andres Cantor's goal to an extent where he's going for 5 minutes. I mean, that was his shtick, but everybody's stolen his shtick.
Yeah, he changed the game. That's kind of interesting how he did that.
Yeah, it's easy enough to do if you got some people who want to listen to. We got something, if you want, we can check out on the security on what's going to happen on the World Cup. So we will check out our little how they're going to protect the people while this all goes on.
A passionate crowd ahead of the World Cup. But these are security officers taking part in the exercise codenamed Watan, which means nation in Arabic. Thousands of civilian and military officials from Qatar and 13 other countries are doing the final stress tests. A joint Qatari-Turkish unit is responding to a bomb threat as the match continues inside. They are pulling out all the stops to prepare for any eventuality. All the while, there will be charged crowds inside and outside the stadium, and among them, a few troublemakers. Drunken disorderly behavior and hooliganism concerns authorities at football games.
Just as it would happen in the real tournament, fights would break out and people would be rowdy. And that is what security forces here are preparing for, how to handle those people and what to do with them next.
And people want to know, how will the security forces respond?
Somebody who's making trouble on the streets, are you going to beat them up? Are you going to deport them? What will you do?
Everyone is welcome in here in Qatar. What we are looking for is to show respect to our culture and to tradition. We are here in this, what's an exercise, to overcome any scenarios in this case, to make sure that everyone is safe and secure in our country, and to reach the goal, a unique tournament ever.
In addition to the 11 ministries in Qatar, military and security experts from Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Kuwait, France, Germany, Poland, Italy, Spain, the US, the UK and Turkey are involved. For those who don't speak English, translators will ensure smooth coordination.
There are scenarios where buses are being hijacked, protests are happening, riots are happening, some bombs are exploding, anti-drone operators are here. So it's all happening as if it was a real-life scenario during the tournament. One of the most secured locations here in Qatar, this is the command and control center where all the action is taking place. Experts from cybersecurity to transport to anti-terrorism are all stationed here. And this is as close as it gets to the real thing, just ahead of the World Cup.
As more than 1 million people are expected to arrive for the World Cup, the message from the Tournament Security Committee is that fans should feel safe with their families and friends. And people looking to cause trouble should expect a well-prepared security contingent. Javed Al Jazeera at the National Command Center, Qatar.
Well, it looks like they got it. I like the guy that flew through the windshield of the car. That was pretty impressive. It's
I can't imagine there's going to be too many problems with hooligans over there, just because I think they've done a job before the thing saying, listen, if you come over here and you're drunk and you're causing problems, you're getting thrown in jail for 10 years. Like, just don't do it. Like, just come watch the football, come watch the games.
Right.
You know, there's probably going to be some stuff, but, you know, I can't imagine there's going to be very, very little issues with the fans over there.
Yeah, I mean, they're familiar with what goes on, and clearly, you know, seeing so many different countries that are involved in helping, it looks to me like they got it covered. And I do think the language barrier is going to be important, and I think clearly they talked about that, which I think is pretty amazing. And some of that stuff with the guy on the zip, line that went flying through the air is very, I was like expecting Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible to kind of pop up in the middle of it. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. And they've got an event where the world is watching. The television audience for the World Cup is in excess of over almost 2 billion people. So yeah, I mean, you've got a captive audience, to be sure. But it sure looks like they got it. I'm not so sure that I would pick Qatar as my place to make a mark.
Yeah, it's you gotta.
Of course, then again,
just be.
It's crazy everywhere. So
yeah, look, it's not to say like I think something will happen and they'll make an example of somebody and whatever. But once again, if you go over there and act up.
Mm-hmm.
On top of after every when you get on the plane there, I'm sure the embassy saying, listen, don't act up.
Right.
Everything, don't act up, don't act up, don't act up. And then you go over there and you act up, and then they're like, I can't believe I've been arrested for acting up.
Right.
what the hell, man? Like every single person told you not to act up, and you do it, and then you can't be surprised when something happens, and then people are going to be like, "Well, this is a travesty. It's just World Cup." No, look, you're going to someone's country. You can't be drunk and fighting and all this stuff. You gotta go watch the games and enjoy the games.
I remember living in Washington. We have all the embassies on Embassy Road there on Massachusetts Avenue. And I remember one time I was on Pennsylvania Avenue, and there was a bunch of tourists from another country there. And one of the tour guides was saying, somebody had asked him what would happen if he attempted to climb over the fence to get onto the White House lawn. And the guide is going, look, no. You don't want to even try. No, don't do it, because you will get, they will find you quickly, and it's not going to end well. And the guy was like, was fascinated with the thought of trying to climb over the fence. So they began the process of strolling back down Pennsylvania Avenue. This guy was obsessed. He literally put one foot up on the wall to go up onto the fence. He had his hands on the fence, and within seconds, he was on the ground with 3 Secret Service agents on him, cuffing him, with his face literally flat on the concrete. And the tour guide was apoplectic because he didn't know what the hell just happened. And he looks at him and he looks down and he says, "I told you not to do this." And so you got to remember, what I had guys who were talking who would say, you wouldn't believe the fools that walk into our embassy and say, "Hey, look, I need some help." You wouldn't believe what they just did to me. Well, yeah, but what did you just do? You did a foolish thing, and now you expect us to get you out of this? What the hell?
I know, and it's like, if you've been told 50 times not to, like, the problem, like, people will say, well, it's not a just law. It's not look. It's not like that's not for you. Like, you've been told not to do it 50 times, like, and then you do it and you get in trouble. Then you can't complain to me about getting in trouble.
No.
I can't.
In Super Bowl 25, which is the Super Bowl right after the first Gulf War, and it was in Tampa, and I was working the Super Bowl, and every day you would go to the stadium, and every day they would check the car, and every day they would make you go through a metal detector, and every day all this had happened, and people would get, "Oh man, this is such a pain." And it's like, guys, they're doing it for a good reason. I mean, it's not like they're doing it because they don't. Who knows what might happen? And so if they give you rules, play by the rules. I mean, otherwise, it will not end well.
Yeah.
So, we got that coming too. So, all right. Well, we covered some college football and some pro football, and even came up with an idea of how the American Athletic Conference and the Mountain West could come together and put together a really nice. I like the idea of the four divisions and 5 time zones. So there you go. We got that going for you. One last thing, and that is that I don't know if you saw the interview with Brady. We're not talking about the cryptocurrency. That's another show, another group of people. But the one thing that he was taken by the singing, and Rich Eisen had a super take on what happened with the singing. And let me see if we got. Did I get the Rich Eisen thing? No, I didn't. But anyway, Rich was doing the game for NFL Network, and he said that when when they were in a commercial break in the fourth quarter, they were singing, John Denver. They were singing, "Thank God I'm a country boy," and and he said that he goes, 80,000 people singing that song. He goes, you could see the players just kind of like looking up out of the huddle, going, what's going on here? And he said that they were in commercial break, and he was telling the producer, look, we got to come back with this, and so they came back with it, and he just said, the electric crowd and the way that they embraced it, and of course, if you know Munich, right? Munich is not as big a city as London. Okay, you can play a big game in London, and half of London wouldn't even know you're playing.
Yes.
That is not the case in Munich. Munich is not that big a city, and it was basically everywhere you looked there was banners for either the Bucks or the Seahawks in place. So it was a lot of fun, and they said Brady said it's the closest he's ever felt to being a superstar soccer player was being in Munich and listening to the singing of the song. So if it impressed the guy who was, and Rich said it had kind of like a Super Bowl feel to it.
Yeah.
So, that's good enough. That's pretty cool. So anyway, just some final thoughts on that. Any final things you want to get out of there before we head off into the sunset?
No, I just watch a couple games tonight and see see probably watch. I'll probably watch more of the college game than I will some of the pro game, but I'll be flipping back and forth a little bit there to see. But I think there's some pretty good games coming up over the next 3 days before we even get to the World Cup. So a lot of it's starting to get
starting to get interesting.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, tomorrow if you don't mind, we'll have a little fun and talk a little bit about the college game of the weekend. There's some good college games this weekend. There'll be some good pro games this weekend. We'll give you that. And then we'll get you set up and primed for World Cup, which starts on Sunday. Okay?
Yeah,
so until that time, guys and gals, thank you very much for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. For the prodigal Sean himself, Sean Miller, I'm Jim Williams. We will see you tomorrow, same time, folks. 3 o'clock on the East Coast. Okay? All right. Until that time, take care.